Ahoy and welcome to Nelson at Sea. This is where I'm going to be chronicling the adventures, how I got into sailing, the dreams that I had that I shared with my father, and then the realization that I finally could achieve my dream and get a blue water boat. Currently sitting on my Cal 246 up in Washington State, not DC, and enjoying the early spring weather. We can say that facetiously a little bit because the weather up here hasn't quite turned nice. It keeps going back and forth. Currently going through some rain showers right now. But like I said, going to go through a lot of the what I've gone through, how I came up here, etc., etc. So sit back, enjoy, and see if I can actually get this thing going. All right, so let's start out with how did I get into sailing? I find it an interesting story. This goes back a lot of years. I think I was somewhere around 7, 8 years old, and my father and one of his friends taught me how to sail in a little Optimus pram, or what would be identified as a pram nowadays. Back then, I don't know if they were still called Optimus. This was a wooden version of it that was probably built by somebody in their backyard. But it just had that little funny sail on there. And I used to go out in the lakes of Michigan, not Lake Michigan, the little inland lakes, but and go fart around. They had a second boat, which after I got so that I could master the Optimist, and trust me, it took a little bit to get to master that. Not that it's not a very forgiving boat to learn in, but the idea of getting off of, trying to get off of a lee shore with getting across a weed bed without getting the dagger board and the rudder all fouled up with weeds was somewhat of a challenge. So once I demonstrated that I could do that well, then I got graduated up to the other boat that the friends had, which was a butterfly, which was a blast to sail. Loved that thing. So. And it just, we spent some time back then and just sailing with friends, sailing with my brother, and just having a blast. Well, now I didn't get to sail very regularly back then. I mean, my parents never had a boat of our own, but whenever we visited people, visited my parents' friends, and if they had a sailboat, you can bet that I'd find my way onto it. And that went, that was fun off and on, usually in the summers. If you've experienced Michigan winters, well, I didn't do ice boats, but that's pretty much it. You sail during the summer months, sail, canoe, rowboating, things like that. As I started to get older and as I grew up, I came to understand that my dad loved sailing. It's something that you don't really think about when you're a kid. But my dad really loved sailing, and he would go out sailing. Occasionally had the opportunity to go sailing with friends of his on their larger boats. I never got to go along on those, but I think at one point he sailed with a guy on his keelboat doing the Port Huron to Mackinac race one year, and he thought that was just the greatest thing. And I'm going, as we talked about sailing more, realized that we had some of the same love for the sport, and started picking up sail magazines and going through and looking at the different boats and the different adventures people were having. And, we both thought that that was just the best thing that we could do. So and he shared me his dream is he wanted to eventually get a big enough boat for him to live on and move onto the ocean. Unfortunately, he was never able to achieve that dream as he passed away way too early. I think he was 64 years old when he passed. And I said that sounded great as myself, and that kind of went in the back of my mind for a number of years, and never completely got away from it. I had a period of time that I was fishing bass tournaments, and I had a bass boat that was bloody uncomfortable to cruise in, but it was a nice fishing platform, and decided to sell it, get rid of it, and my wife said she would like to have a boat that's more comfortable. And I said, well, yeah, I can understand it. There's really no comfort in the bass boat. And I said, well, how about a sailboat? And she said, it's been a long time since I've been on a sailboat. Never really sailed a whole lot, but yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So I found a little 25-footer, and it started her. She just really enjoyed the sailing. It was a Shock 25. It was an older boat. Then we decided to upgrade it, something that we could do a little bit more, and I got a International J24, which I chose the J24 because I could bring the wife, 2 kids, and a couple other crew, and we could race effectively. So yeah, I was one of those really anal racing guys. But having the family along was great. And it was just one of those things that's like, I think we checked in at a circuit stop, and if you've ever done circuit racing, something like J22s, J24s, there's a crew weight limitation. And so everybody's got to weigh in ahead of time to make sure you don't have too much weight on the crew. And I don't think anybody else has gone to a circuit stop and weighed in with 7 people on the boat. So I thought that was cute. That was up in Fort Worth. But anyway, we raced the J24 for probably 15 years or so, and until it finally died. And so I took it over to the local boat shop. And let me plug Schroth Fiberglass, because he's a great guy. And Fred said, here, walk across this deck, or let me walk across it and you watch it. And he said, this boat's gone. Because I was just going to have him scuff it up, paint it, and sell it for $1,000 or something like that, just to keep going. He says, this boat is gone. So I said, what does it take to make it go away? Said, okay. He says, you let me keep everything that's on the boat, and I'll make it go away. I'll recycle the metals and the parts and stuff like that, and that'll be enough compensation. I'll take the rest of it to the dump. So yeah, that is great. So he made that happen. Meanwhile, my wife says, I really miss sailing. So I said, well, we could get another boat. And I started throwing out different types of boats that we could try. Something that we could easily handle, just the 2 of us. And I threw some out, and she's going, no, I really don't want that. And I said, well, we could go out and try them. I threw out Ensign, I threw out J22s, and she, no, no, no. Then I found a Hunter 28.5, nice boat. Little Yanmar diesel in there to back it out and go out. And it go. Take it out. Everything was led back to the cockpit so I could trim the sails and steer, run the motor if I had to. And she just, if she wanted to help, she could. If she just wanted to sit there and enjoy the wind and the sunset, she could do that too. And she thought that was just the greatest thing. And I have to agree that Hunter 28.5 is an excellent boat. Not quite what I need for a blue water. Because, if we go back a little bit, just to rewind a little bit into love of sailing offshore, is we had gone to visit some friends down in the Keys as one of the things. And they had it was a Catalina 41. And so we went sailing out of the Keys and started heading east. And if you've ever been out off of the Keys, and as you get out past the shelf and the water gets really deep and it gets that very deep azure color, every time I see it, it just calls to me. I feel it right in my chest. It's just calling to me. And that was a funny thing during, this trip, for example, was as we're sailing out to the east, I'm going, if we keep sailing this way, we'll be in Nassau in the morning. Guy driving goes, you're right. Tacking. So we tacked over. And said, still looking at this, I just didn't want to go in because the color of the ocean was just speaking to me. I just didn't want to go in. I said, if we keep on this course, we could be in Havana tomorrow. And when the comment was, I guess I should have packed sandwiches. Anyway, we stayed out about, we had to wait for the high tide to come back to go back in, but that was just a beautiful sail. And it just solidified with me the love of the blue water. And this was a nice reminder to me. So now as I'm going on, unfortunately, life took a bit of a downturn. And my wife ended up contracting a very horrible disease, ALS, and I was able to take care of her to the end. And then after she passed away, I'm looking at him going, I might be able to actually get the boat now. So it was, I started looking, find out, I was looking for a specific size boat, looking at something that I could handle. It's a single or short-handed, and something that was big enough that I could be comfortable and I could have friends along. Okay, yeah, sometimes, I do have a few friends. And so I started looking around and seeing what was available and what the price range were. And I had a number of boats that seemed to fit the bill. So this was it took a while, and as it came down to the price range that I was looking at, then it came down to one of the boats that struck my fancy was the Cal 246. And I said, really, I want to look at it. I want to get on board to see what it feels like for me. Because pictures, depending on the lens and things like that, don't necessarily tell the whole story. And I mean, you can look at that and said, if you're looking for a boat, you pretty much need to go see the boat, the pictures, or see one like it. Now, the crazy thing is, as I'm looking at the Cal, and then there was a couple other boats like the Hunter 450 and there's a Beneteau somewhere in the mid 40s. And I was just looking at different boats, Catalina, and like the Cal really interested me because of the layout. It's not set out for accommodating a lot of people to sleep. It's basically got the V berth, which will sleep 3 people up forward. It's got the master cabin that sleeps 2 in the aft. Suppose you could sleep on the settee, and I'll probably end up putting a lee cloth in there to do the offshore stuff. But anyway, back to it. I was looking for a Cal 246 that I could look at. It's an older boat, and there were a number of them. I saw one that was for sale up in Seattle, and so I get ready to call to see if I could come up and see it, and it was sold. I mean, it sold, I think, 3 or 4 days after I saw the listing. When I saw one down in California, it was sold before I could go see it. Then there was one that was for sale over in Norfolk, Virginia, and then it got sold before I could contact the broker. And it just kept going. And finally, I found one back up in Seattle, and said, this is, I called up the broker and says, hey, the boat's still for sale. And they go, yeah. And I said, I'd like to come see it. So I figured I'd drive up. I said, I can either drive, I can fly, or I can ride my motorcycle. And he says, the weather's beautiful up here and the mountains are looking really good. Why don't you ride the motorcycle up? I said, okay, I'll do that. So I rode the motorcycle up and got to see the Cal, and as I walk into it, I'm going, this is an awesome boat. This is an incredible boat to be on. And it just, I wouldn't say I fell in love, but I fell in very strong like, shall we say. And so I'm going through it, and I'm going, this looks basically like what I'm looking for. I mean, there's a few things I need to do with it to get it to go offshore, but man, it's a nice layout. It just what I was looking for. And they had me look at a few other boats while I was there. There was a Swan, and the Swan was nice, but it had a problem that it was going to take quite a bit of refit to make sure to set it up so that it would be usable. Because it didn't have a holding tank. It was basically a macerator discharge system, and which is no longer legal in this area up here. You have to get out into I think the restrictions go away once you get to the Strait of Juan de Fuca. But anything really in the Salish Sea is zero discharge. So you would have 2 heads on board, neither one of them usable. Okay, so that's, it was nice. It was a nice one. They had already taken off the teak decking and replaced it with non-skid, put a hard Dodger on there. This is a pretty nice boat. Then there was a Baltic 42, which is basically a Swan by a different mother. It was nice, but it was a little bit small for what I wanted to do. Then they had one, it was aluminum hull brewer. It was a Brewer 36 that was equipped beautifully for doing offshore sailing. I wouldn't have to do a thing to it, but it was just too small. Uh, it was a good boat for a couple that had no friends, or if you had a friend that they didn't mind sleeping on a sleeping bag in the saloon. But there was no privacy. It was like the open concept that everybody's getting in houses now. This was open concept in a boat. I don't even remember a curtain between the berth space and the living space. Single head, but like I said, the aluminum hull, wind vane steering in place, autopilot. It was just, oh, it was a wonderful boat. I just couldn't see myself getting something that small. Then there was another one. It was Tayana 46 or 47, which was a sound boat, but it was really inexpensive. And the reason for that is it would have to be basically all the electronics would have to be done from ground up. A lot of woodworking would have to be done. This is a boat that had gotten it got blown ashore in a tropical storm in Florida. It got a hole in the hull, got flooded for a little while. It rescued. The hull has been fixed, but the interior hasn't been done. And I can see that there's a number of people that bought the boat as a salvage and wanted to say, yeah, I can fix this up. But I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, I could spend the money equipping it, but it's going to take me at least 2 years to get this boat ready to go. And I'm going, I want something that I can sail and have fun in now. So it came back to the cow. And so I went back and I said, okay, let me make sure that it's a good boat. So I scheduled a survey, and so found a good surveyor, had the rigging surveyed. Just wanted to make sure that there weren't any major problems with the boat. And so I came back up, and for the survey, and then we got to go out on the boat and exercise the systems, and then the surveyor got to watch the surveyor go around, pulled the boat out, had the bottom pressure washed, and said, that looks pretty good. Then I got the survey report, and there was a couple of things in there that were a little bit concerning, so I was able to use that to reduce the price, because it's stuff that I'm having to work on. We came to an agreement, went the paperwork back and forth, and then I wrote a big ass check, and so now I am the proud owner of a Cal 246. So I was going to buy the boat, spend 6 months or so fitting it out, and then sailing it down and going through the Panama Canal, or have it trucked across and just bring it back up to Corpus Christi or Port Aransas or Galveston, someplace, and put it on the Gulf Coast. Then I got to experience Puget Sound, Sailor Sea, the San Juan Islands. I'm going, I want to stay here for a while. So that is the plan right now. I've got permanent moorage here in Bremerton, and looking for maybe to get permanent moorage up in the San Juans, but they're still, it's very close. So, for now, I'm going to continue to fix it out, and as I go through this, as I go through the different projects, I mean, things that I want to do to the boat are add a water maker, add solar power, add wind power. Uh, I gotta equip the second autopilot. I've got the head, but I need to put an actuator in there and get that so it goes correctly. Do I want to upgrade the chart plotter? Chart plotter's fine as it is. It just doesn't do some of the things that the new ones do. So what I find is I tend to use Navionics on my phone or my tablet while I'm working or while I'm sailing. So anyway, rest of this channel will be like going through projects on the boat, and actually exploring the islands, going out, anchoring out, sailing the boat around, and just enjoying the area up here in the Pacific Northwest. I said it was such a revelation, as like going from where I had purchased the boat, which was on Lake Union, which is really in Seattle, and then going up to Shoal Bay Marina for an overnight there. Because you never know how long it's going to take to get through the locks on the canal. And then the next day we sailed up to Everett Marina, spent the night there, and then went over to Orcas Island to the Deer Harbor Marina. And got to go through Deception Pass, which is a hoot. You're in for excitement. You want a little bit of excitement? We'll do that. Come on up, and we'll have some fun. Anyway, looking forward to continuing this log and take you along on my journey. So have a wonderful day, and talk to you later.